with my good friend Mark later. Mark, why don't we start out by you introducing yourself and telling everybody who you are and why you know so much about this.
Well, I think it's called 40 years, isn't it, of coming from what the world used to call sales, and here we are 40 years later, and everybody's been told to go and get all their degrees and things, and we forgot about this thing called somebody better sell something. So somehow I've been in the middle of that, undulations and changes. And a guy from, I think he's from where's he from? And when I used to work with him years ago, and he ran a very big company called American Sales Masters, and it's been late 80s. And he sold, in fact, Sales Masters because he felt that the mood at the time was shifting towards management training. So the late 80s, 90s, it became all about management training. And he was right, because the salespeople have been trained to death. But here we are now, another 30 years on, and there is no sales training. There is no management training either, by the way, but we'll do that one next. But the whole pendulum has now gone so far that we've got a world of everybody wants to deliver. Everybody's got a great course, but they kind of go, I've got to get this great course sold now. But they didn't ask if everybody wanted it first. And so I've just lived that path as the sales guy, the business guy, the coachy. So I'm not Mr. Technique. I'm Mr. Why the hell would humans do that? I tend to come at it. My study area is psychology stuff. So I like I'll look at it from a behavioral point of view, because you can give people techniques and they work, but not in the hands of the wrong person. So again, we've got a world with all this good stuff out there, but without the refocus on the S word, sales, it's never going to get to the marketplace. And whenever you and I talk, and we've got various projects, this is the nub of it. So you said, let's get on and talk, and here we are.
Yeah, exactly. And for those that are watching, if you don't know who I am, I'm Carrie George. I own CIBN Connect. Been working with business owners and entrepreneurs and people who don't think they're salesmen for about 15 years now, and in front of thousands of businesses a year. And I've seen this over and over again since we got started, where people, I've got this thing that I do, I got this service that I have, I've got this product that I have. But what they don't understand is that you need to be able to sell it. You have to get people to buy it and purchase it on the other end, or you don't have anything. It doesn't matter how great you are at doing that thing if nobody's buying the service. And then this last few years, what we've watched and often talked about, Mark, is that, there's a huge uptake in the coaching arena, where you got all kinds of people have gotten into coaching, especially in 2020. We had so much change in the job market, and people were, leaving what they had done for years. And then there were people that were saying, well, I've got a course you can take on how to be a coach. So that industry has grown. It actually grew 800% in 2020 and 2021. And it just exploded worldwide. And now here we are today, as I'm continuing to run networking meetings at CIBN Connect, and we have thousands of people coming in every year. And now lots of them are these new coaches. And what I'm watching this year in 2024, and I think we're going to see more in 2025, is they're quitting coaching and going back to getting a job because they can't make it. And the main problem is not that they don't know how to coach. It's not that they're not really good with people, or they won't make a transformational difference in someone's life. The problem is they can't sell to save their life. And they're literally drowning. They've used up their savings. They've made just a few sales, enough to kind of keep skimping along. They sent the wife out to work, the cat out to work, try to make up the difference, right? And it's just not working for them. But the one thing that nobody is talking about is, let's fix the sales problem, for God's sake. If you can't sell, it doesn't matter how awesome you are at anything else. You're not making customers come through the door. And I know that you've seen the same thing and with the people you've been working with.
For literally for years. And as you probably write a book about sell like a brain surgeon, because the opening line would be, clue, brain surgeons don't sell, and they don't stand outside the hospital either with, you need a brain operation. But somehow in all these industries, they we tend to call it the knowledge industry, but service industry really wider, business to business mainly, applies to B2C, but it's particularly business to business. And in the coaching industry, we've got people who think that they can make, what a brain surgeon makes, but the brain surgeon went to school for about 20 years and did all these things and went and did a lot of other surgery before they were able to call themselves a brain surgeon. So the whole coaching industry in particular, and dare I say those words, high ticket, has been kind of about almost jumping all the steps. So suddenly you can just make 100,000 a year and you go, it's not working though, as you just said. And it's the permanent problem. And what's the solution that's being offered? That all these surgery type people, they're almost teacher profiles or even carer profiles, really nice people. And some of them have got some, terrific programs. But unless they go and go talk to the people who are likely to buy it, they're not going to sell it. And all this stuff that says you got to post on LinkedIn, you got to do that, you got to be super duper Google AdWords. The brain surgeon doesn't get told to do all that. They just operate. So the problem is, it's Apollo 13. The problem has been hardwired into how we've been taught to design businesses. And 80% of business owners report they're not from a marketing background. Well, unless they find out how to get that bit of the job done, they're going to do what you said, and that's they're going to go back and get a job because it won't sustain.
Absolutely. And I'm seeing it everywhere. And I love what you're saying about, simply need training. I don't know why someone would think you could go start selling without training. I meet people all the time and they say, well, I'm no good at selling. I'm an introvert. I've got all these excuses of why I'm no good. Well, the biggest problem of why you're no good is because you have no training and you have no practice. And I mean, you can get good at something if you have training and practice, even if it's new to you. You just have to start working on it and working on it and working on it. And like the brain surgeon, it took 20 years. Well, it takes some time. Okay. It takes 10,000 hours to be an expert at anything. And if you've not invested in sales training, then you have 0 hours in practice and training. Okay. And no wonder you suck at it. It would be the equivalent of me going, hey, Mark, I'm going to learn to play the violin. I've never learned or seen anything about violin at all. Okay, nothing. So can you imagine? I go pick up a violin and I'm going to watch YouTube videos. That's how I'm going to learn. Yeah. OMG. Yeah. I mean, God spare my children and my family. Okay. The sound that's going to come out of that is going to be awful. And imagine if I just said, well, I'm not going to pay for any lessons. I'm just going to go and learn from the internet. I'm going to wing it. Okay. And I'm going to just keep practicing the wrong way. Okay. And hope it gets better somehow. I think the people in my life would revolt. They'd be like going, oh my gosh, can you just stop that horrible sound now? But people treat sales like this all the time. They're like, I'm just going to wing it. I've got a great service. If I just talk about that, I'll tell my story. We got all these gurus running around here. Have a great story. Okay. That's nice. It's all good. But if you don't know how to sell, you don't know how to actually create a script that converts, first of all, to an appointment. Okay. And then have an appointment that converts to a real sales call. And then have a sales call that converts to a sale that has something that comes next as a follow-up step. Okay. If you don't have these things made out as a plan, you're winging it. And winging it is for KFC. It's for beer and wings at the bar. Winging it is not a sales process.
But you do realize, don't you, that the mixture of people that will listen and watch this video, as you're describing those processes, they're either flinging themselves out the window or they're having screaming abdabs because we're using sales language here, which the world has largely obliterated. A buddy of mine, he's older than me, a buddy up in Manchester, and he's a real old kind of British northerner. And he's a very laconic networker, clever old, and he uses his age now to walk people into, I'm going to open a business. And I think he's doing a story from a plumber or something. And Kevin, guy, he'll quickly say to them, well, I hope you're good at selling, lad. And the plumber will typically say, no, I hate selling. And Kevin will then go, and he's walked him into this, and you go, well, you've got no chance of surviving in business. Now, he's right, by the way, but view, because the good news is, and people like your organization are probably the type of stepping stone that the bulk of the market are going to become great salespeople, because they don't want to be, but they can. The stepping stone is good, keyword, networking, because they don't, when you're teaching them to network, it's kind of sales light, isn't it? But it's also built on the principles of build relationships, and over a time sales will come. They're still going to have to deal with some of those S-related words that you did, but it's getting that initial base of people to talk to, and good networking is certainly the start of that process to ultimately then find the people who can do, because sales is bad enough, but if you say the C word, the closing word, then they're jumping out the windows again. I mean,
yeah, I want to be salesy. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. Okay, if you want to run a business, get over it. Okay, you have to figure it out. All right, you don't make a sale through osmosis. Okay, nobody. Oh, this is a good one I heard the other day, and I've heard it many times. Well, I'm waiting for them to call me. Really?
All right.
Good freaking luck. Wow. Okay, they're not calling you, honey, because you aren't even. Oh, I'm going to get through social media posting. Okay, how many followers you got? 36. If you have less than 10,000,
some time waiting.
If you have less than 10,000, you may as well say 0. Okay, because there's not enough people in the room hearing the message that you're putting out there, and without that, your only option is to buy ads. Okay, and that's, if you're going to buy ads, then you have to have an ad strategy, and you need to have an ads manager, and you need to have an ads budget. And if you're just trying to wing it on your ads, okay, then what you have is a money-sucking vortex. And also, it would bring you what? Leads? For what purpose if you can't sell? If you manage to get your ads to work and you got 100 great leads, what's the point if you can't sell?
So, but isn't the latest thing that they're all being told, well, they can bypass this problem? We certainly see this with our clients all the time. They think they're going to automate that word. They are going to automate their way out of this problem.
Excuse me.
I'm old school. I don't care how you do it, but you're going to have to talk to people.
Oh, and I'm going to use AI. I'm going to automate it, and I'm going to use AI so that I don't ever have to sell.
What the latest
automate if you don't know how to sell? If you don't know the steps, what exactly are you automating?
Well, that again, see, that would be our, when we can't print as we are now, depending on the client, but you can't automate something that you haven't proven to work. I mean, Henry Ford didn't just come along and go automate cars into existence. They built cars for quite a while, and then he started to go, I can make it better and faster and smarter. And the price came down by 300% or whatever it was. The world in business is trying to automate things without, in business jargon, proof of concept or minimum viable. You can talk that language, but it's all missing the one thing, which is, well, how many people you're talking to.
Exactly.
Just talk to people first, because that's where you get product market fit and all these words that we hear people use. And we ask them one question about it. No clue. They don't even know the words. They might as well be saying it in Russian.
Right. You know what? You were talking about networking being the first steps, and I absolutely agree. And that's because you get your product in front or your service in front of a few people first, and you build some relationship, and you try out these simple processes by having appointments and going through the steps. But it does come down to numbers. I mean, I have people coming to networking meetings, and they don't book any appointments. And then month or two or six pass and they go, I'm not making any money. This networking sucks. And the reality is they didn't book appointments. And if they did have appointments, they had appointments that were good times. They got together and talked about their cats and their dogs and their kids, but they didn't actually lead into a proper sales process where they asked people to buy service. So networking is great, and CIBN is awesome for leading people through those steps, starting in the beginning, because we got a $27 membership that's like, anyone can come in for $27 a month and they can start networking and learning the little pieces, but they need to get past the beginning into the next steps. Like, that's just the beginning, right? If you want to learn sales concepts, you got to move forward into the next steps. And that's why we've labeled them out into levels of membership. We have a speaker's level, though. You get in front of people, you talk more, you try, your pitch, you do a 20-minute presentation instead of a 60-second presentation. You get better at it, right? And then the next step, or you can jump straight to step 3 if you suck at selling and you know it. Why actually?
You already know it.
You already know you suck at selling. Okay. That means business will be a failure for you if you don't do this first. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's $177 a month, and you just go straight to sales training. And sales training, what does sales training usually cost, Mark? In your experience, have you ever seen anything for $177 a month? Like, ever?
It's to the thousands, doesn't it? Unless you're getting some of the big room pitches that they used to do, but typically it's a corporate product, isn't it? And it's thousands the moment you say that.
Exactly. Like, I don't think I've ever seen a good sales training program for less than $5,000 up front. And so to be able to get in there and start creating the pitches and creating the steps, the scripts, working on them, getting feedback, going through, counting your data, seeing how it works, like, that is part of our Sales Pro program. It's only $177 a month. It's made for entrepreneurs and coaches and small business owners who just know that they need some help. Maybe they don't have the big budget for $5,000, and they just need to be working through this, on an ongoing basis and moving that needle forward. And I love that program. It's one of my favorite, because we take grandmothers and introverts and turn them into super salesmen.
but interestingly, as you just said it, that the amazing thing is some people do end up spending the $5,000, and I don't know, it's not my line, but he calls it, the guy that told me this, to a boxing match. And you've got the biggest weapon, you've got the most powerful thing, but you're still going to lose the boxing match because it's not fit for purpose. So in the example you just used, the 5,000 whatever it is isn't the starting point. It's things like, if you want to do the, people do call themselves introverts, and it's a real challenge. Some of the best salespeople, to use that old word, I personally know and have trained, do call themselves introverts because they discovered something about good selling. The word pitching really gets in the way because it implies the person selling does the talking. But in the best pitches anybody's ever seen, they might be speaking less than 20% of the time, because actually the best pitches are find out stuff about, and that's what you do in networking meetings. So that's why it's a good stepping stone, because almost our piece, the Biz Connector piece, is then going, well, look, Kerry can more than get you started, depending on your personality, on the networking and getting results from that. But then people start to go, now I know I've got to design my business differently. And that's where they start to get the, who can I get to help me? And then a Biz Connector system type thing can kind of get them to the tools that they need, rather than the 5,000 bloody whatever they're being offered that they can't integrate. So that's why you and I are buddies, because between us, we can get most people nearly to the home run in business, pretty much.
It's those little steps along the way and helping them make those decisions and moving the needle forward. I love what you were just saying. Sales, really good selling is actually asking questions. Ask questions, okay? And no one needs to feel salesy if you learn how to ask great questions. Because when you ask these great questions, the prospect tells you what the problems are, and then you get to provide solutions. And when you provide solutions, you're not a salesy person, you're a superhero.
Right.
Because you provided them with the best solution possible, and they feel honored to do that. So like, I know in your company you have programs, smaller ones and bigger ones, where you're providing solutions. And doesn't it feel great when somebody has had a tremendous result with that? Do you feel bad or shabby about it, like somehow you sold them something?
Well, and you and I are both of a history and an age to know. I can remember with some footballers, soccer, in English terms, when they were retiring and they were doing some work with us, and they were kind of, didn't know what to do, and they were getting involved in working with other footballers before they retired. It was a really good program, but the thing that got in their way really became a problem was, so they were going to go and talk to people. Invariably, they were players that they knew from clubs they'd been in, buddies, and so they were going to go and talk to their network. But what they turned the language into, because we never mentioned, it wasn't anything to do with sales. It was just passing on a message, almost like the old multi-level or network, and just pass on the message. But they turned it into keyword. So I'm a pushy salesman then, am I? And I said, well, I don't know what you're pushing. If anything, I don't even like pulling, but if anything, you're attracting, because you're just saying effectively, were you aware of this? If you are, and it's interesting, talk to that lady over there. So I don't know what that's, I guess we'd probably call that networking or connecting with our little spin on it. But where did that, it's something to do with the old, to us, it was the double glazing sales guy in the UK that once they got their foot in the door and then they weren't going to leave and they were going to talk about the tropical fish until you signed up for windows that you didn't need. And you go, well, when the average person gives so much of their power away to this guy, they go, see that thing, mate? It's called the door. You need to leave now before somebody removes your limbs. But it's somewhere this process has got so fearful when it actually comes down to, on what you just described, the moment I like, and it's got a name, is the sales process. If it's that question and answer and match, is where you get the person or let the person, oh my God, meltdown on screen. Oh my word, we've gone on green screen.
Oh, just keep going.
Just keep going. And it's that moment where the customer or the potential customer, they almost say the word aha. It gets called the aha moment, doesn't it? Because even back in the days of pushy car salesmen, when we taught them to ask questions, qualify them properly, match the needs, when the customer said, and they almost raise their finger, or there's an intake of breath, and they go, "Ooh, thank you. I didn't know that." And you could tell you had kind of helped them change their thinking. Well, that's not a pushy process, is it? That's a guiding process. And we were trained on, it was called guided discovery. The customer at that point is experiencing value from the process. And suddenly, a lot of people that go, I can't sell, I hate selling, I'm never going to sell. But could you ask this next question? And is it nice when you help even if the job is we're not trying to convert them into being salespeople, what it does is it changes the spin on selling to actually helping people to get to things and even to make their mind up on things that we're trained to say, no, I'd sign nothing. Oh, signing things. So we are, between us, we're just trying to help more deals get done, which helps everybody.
It is. I mean, if you got a product or service that changes lives, it makes a difference, and you have a passion for whatever it is that you're offering, that is the beginning of, getting ready to make that sale. That's where your mindset has shifted and you're going, okay, I'm not here to sell somebody something. I'm here to give them an opportunity. I'm here to give them something they can't get anywhere else. And I know there's a tremendous amount of satisfaction as a salesperson if I sell a low-level membership and I see somebody change their life and, you know, move their needle forward. I'm as excited about that as I am when I'm selling a 25K program or I'm helping somebody with their membership and subscription program and help them to turn that into something really, you know, amazing, because they had all the pieces, but they couldn't put them together in the right order. And when you get together with them and you see that they go, oh, aha, like you just said, they have that aha, oh, I could do it and I could actually get through this process quicker, you know, that has huge value to them to do that, because if they were left on their own, they would still continue to struggle and try, sign up for this program and sign up for that program and do this thing, and they're trying to put the pieces together. All this time is wasted. And, you know, and you think, well, man, that's a huge expensive program. But you see, if they're mucking around with this and that, and they're never getting to the place where they're making 150K or more, then it's costing them more than that every week, every month, every year. And I've met so many people, they've been trying to put something together for 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 years, and they're still not there, you know? And I would say, well, how much longer do you want to do that? Like, hello? So, you know, and I've done it myself. I've invested in programs that were very costly, very expensive, but I did them because I did that investment because I knew this person or this program will help me to move my needle forward faster. And without that help, I was struggling and I wasn't getting to where I needed to go. And I was tired of the struggle. I was willing to find someone to please sell me something that would fix this problem, you know? In fact, there's been times, you know, and I'm sure you've been like this too, Mark. You're like, I got this situation in my business, and you're looking around and you're going, who's got the solution? You know, I'm willing to pay right now anyone who can tell me how to fix this thing. I know when we were learning how to run ads for our business, and I wanted my ads on a special place. I was playing these little games on my phone and the ads were popping up there. And I kept going to marketing people and saying, how do you get the ads on there? None of them knew. And I just kept asking people, and they were giving me this answer and that answer. And I would look it up and go, no, that isn't it. That's not what's working. And finally I found somebody who was running an ad on the game, says, I know how to do this. I'm like, holy crap, I don't care what the price is. I'm going to pay it right now because that's what I wanted, right? And it was 10 grand. And I was like, let's find the money. Let's do it. You know, because it was the solution that I was looking for. Right. And I think, you know, when you know that you're looking for a solution, you're willing to pay whatever it takes to get that thing done. But lots of people in business just know they have a problem. They don't know what the solution is. They haven't quite figured it out, or they don't know where to go to get the solution, you know? And that's
and a lot of them are carrying baggage as well, aren't they? A lot of them are carrying baggage from kind of kissing a lot of frogs, and in their opinion, none of them turned into princes or princesses.
Right? You can kiss a frog as many times as you want. It is not turning into a prince. You're just getting work all over your
the buyer side is very jaundiced. That's why our whole approach is, how do you get people to be able to, the classic know, like, and trust? Well, the only way I know how to do that is involve people in a dialogue where the dia bit says 2. There's normally 2 in a dialogue at least. And it's creating that. And therefore, you know, marketing, we use the little phrase of like MIJAC, MIJAC. Marketing is just a conversation, because we get rid of all of this, particularly because the States is so powerful on marketing in the past, and everything's got a name, product market fit, and that just means talking to people about, because I understood product market fit as a kid, and I didn't know why, because I had talked to several hundred people, and then I'd be the one feeding it back to the office. So I knew, no, they don't want a green one, they want a blue one. No, they don't want us to sell a blue one, and they want a green one. We've got to make the green one. Well, you only find that out by engaging in conversations. And that's right. Where most of the personality styles that open businesses They can do these pieces. We haven't turned them into a professional salespeople, because that's not going to happen. But we can help them do an awful lot of the little +1 steps that gets them moving to their business growing enough to like 150K your figure type thing, because then they can start to bring in real help to grow to the next level. But most people never get to that level. So they all this scale language, they're wasting their time until they address this core problem.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just thinking that it's one of the things that you were talking about is getting the feedback from the customer base, you know, and find out what's going on. And one of the things that I have seen with new coaches and people that are new into the market of selling something, they're going out trying to interview people who are not customers. They're interviewing, they're creating focus groups, and they're going, here's my pilot program and it's free. I'm going to put 10 people through it so they'll give me a testimony and give me feedback. Sounds like a great idea. I've got all kinds of people that promote that kind of stuff. I hate that idea. I think that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Why would you want to get the opinions of people who didn't pay for it? Frankly, I don't care what people think who didn't pay for our services.
You do know the classic. You do know the classic one that we quote on this subject, don't you? It was something like 100 women for the product, although some men do use it. It was they were reviewing handbags. So at the time, it's a few years ago, so it was all women. Right. And there was it was a focus group, and they asked them about which one they liked, and they voted, and la 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 la. And they came up with at least 105, but there was these 4 or 5 clear winners by miles ahead of all the others. And then they did the real experiment, which is when they said to the women, of course, there's enough of all the different types for you to take 2 as part of your fee, and you can take whichever ones you like. None of them, not one of the 100, took any of the 5 that they just voted as the best. Because now they clicked into, well, I could wear that with that dress, and I could wear that when I go to work, and I could wear. So then it's almost like they put in a different disc that said, now I'm in buyer mode. Everything else up until that point, they were in this analysis mode.
And this is why I don't care what the opinion is of people who don't pay us. Okay. I care what the opinion is of the people who do pay us. If somebody buys a membership with CIBN and they're still a member 13 years later, and I have many of them, okay, that means they like it. Okay, they enjoy what we're doing. They're getting good value, and I want their testimony. Their testimony is huge because this is a buyer's testimony, and they're continuing to use and enjoy the service, the products, the things that we're offering. That is a huge testimony. And if I'm going to do a focus group in my company, I go to the people who've been consistent buyers and I ask them what their opinions are. I care what they think because they have been around for the journey. They know our heart. They know our story. They know what's worked for them. They know it's working for others because they're meeting other members in the network. Those opinions count. I don't think I've ever ran a focus group with people who are not buyers. I just think it's incredibly stupid. I think you've got to actually go to the people who have purchased. And now here's another thing. If you're trying to figure out what do I sell my product for, put a price tag on it that is fair, that is what the market generally pays for that type of thing, and see if people buy it. Okay, offer it and run sales appointments asking people to buy it and see if they buy it. And if they buy it, then it can be sold for that. And if they're happy, then you have a testimony that you can really, truly use. And that is far more exciting than having freebies given away and giving you their useless opinion. They paid $0. Their opinion is worth $0.
There's a line. It's kind of become line of the end towards the end of the year. I think I heard it years ago, but it was brought to my attention the other day, and it's human beings are far better if they do something. So that whatever it is, whether it's business, doesn't really matter, but just do anything. And what they learn from the doing is likely to change their thinking or impact their thinking. But what the world is doing, and it probably starts when we were kids, because we suddenly got sat down and somebody judged our ability to learn rather than just play in the street or with a ball or whatever we were doing. What the world is doing is saying, I'm going to fill your head with stuff to think about. And it's that thinking about that is then going to change your behavior. That is not the learning model, but that is what the way the world is teaching us, particularly in business. We think, and if you can tell by the amount of times people go, I think this and I think that, and you go, first word shift is from the I to the you, because the reality of it is get people doing things, get people into the networking room, get people to say hello to 35 people and nothing else, and come back next week and say, hello, what's your name? And nothing else. I mean, they're silly things, but they are the things that we did when we were kids. We dived in when we were kids. Now, particularly around this marketing subject, it's all, it must have been invented in the States because Britain's useless at this kind of stuff. The terms overthink is now, we believe, there's almost words you can't use to describe this. We're going to think our way into new behavior when the whole power of learning is you take action, and the process and the feedback, that's what causes the change in perspective. So if ever there's a horse and cart in the wrong order that's causing a huge business problem that we can solve, the good news is we can help people solve this very cost effectively between us. It's really not a problem. These aren't complex things if we get rid of all of the BS jargon.
Yep. We need to take action and learn from that action. I love that. That's so cool. That is so true. That's what we do in our programs. That's what we bring people in and we make them do these little steps over and over again. And I always say the biggest journey is 6 inches. It's right here. Okay. So, but you don't think your way into it. You learn something, you apply it, you do it. Okay. And then you think about it. Okay. You think differently because you had a different response. You can create the affirmations to make yourself do that. But you know what? The 6-inch rule, he's got it right there. That's awesome.
To give these out.
That's awesome. Rule I love that. And it's a feature in our book, actually, of smart networking. We talk a lot about that subject right there, the 6 inches, that you got to overcome the 6 inches, because we have these stories in our heads, and really that is the biggest problem with selling, is we have stories in our heads. Like you were talking about, the used car salesman type attitude. Well, where'd that come from? That's some story in your head, some trauma planted itself back there, something that was said in front of you by an adult in your life, or some experience that you had. That doesn't have to be your selling journey. Okay. You choose how you operate and what your selling journey is. But the thing about sales is that you do have to have a process. The idea that I'm just going to ignore it and it will somehow get better, that's not true. It's just not true. You have to spend some time focusing on it. And if business is tough, if business is something that you're struggling with, I can just about always guarantee, I'd say 99.9% of the time, the problem is related to selling somewhere. Okay. Either you're not selling enough, or if you got a big company, maybe your sales team isn't selling enough, or maybe your customer service has forgotten that the sales are important, so they're not upselling. They're actually, I meet these people, they work for big companies or for government, and they sit there on a chair and they're like, this is my job description and it's all I'm going to do. And it's not my job to sell, and selling is gross and evil and it's yucky. And I would never, ever lower myself to that. Do you know that even if you work for the government, you don't have a job unless somebody in the world is selling?
The line used to be, nothing happens until somebody sells something.
It's the entire GDP of the nation comes off of selling. So
the world's gone away from this. Salespeople doesn't want to hear it.
Yeah, the salespeople are the top of the hierarchy. They're not the bottom. They're causing the literal GDP of every nation.
They most certainly are.
So we need to honor salespeople. We need to think about that as a high-level occupation. It should have the utmost importance, and it should be something that we are willing to invest our time in learning how, and learning how to follow processes so that we can be better at it. And being better at selling makes us a better human being.
And the good news, guys, as you're hearing this very clear message is, you as a person don't have to get great at selling. You just have to dive in, probably into the networking pool first, because they've got to get it so far, because then they can design the business to get the selling done for them. But they've got to do things first, then apply the brain, then design the business differently. So we can solve this problem without trying to turn them all into salespeople. We can get them far enough down the line to get their business growth, and they're comfortable around this kind of area. And then you can bring in expert salespeople if you need them. So there is a win-win here. They don't have to suffer for their art.
You don't have to suffer forever, but you know what? Start moving the needle forward, just one step at a time, putting one foot in front of the other. So I just want to say thanks for doing this with us today. This is a lot of fun. And, just having these candid conversations. We were having candid conversations, him and I together, and I was like, oh my gosh, we've got to get together and do this online and talk about this really important topic. And, just kind of put the word out there. That doesn't have to be the death of your business, okay? The death of the salesman is not the death of your business. Bring that salesman to life. Find out a new way of doing it. And there's lots of people out there with great tools, and Mark is one of them. Definitely reach out to him for answers. And of course, we have it as well. Do you have any closing words you want to say, Mark?
The closing words have got to be, it isn't as hard as people have been led to believe. They haven't got to become the world's best salesperson. They just have to embrace talking to people again and taking action, and then really design it. And then there's lots of cost-effective help that can actually get the business failure rate of the 80% or so in both of our countries. Let's flip that around and get it to a success of 80+%, because the tools are out there. So it's only us as the operators, and we've got to get that sales front-end engine going. And guess what? It could be fun for a lot more people. If we can make this fun, they haven't got to suffer for their art, as I say.
Yeah, that's awesome. Absolutely true. All right.